Payroll cycle. Oh, right. Getting in here. Now, payroll is going to be an important function because guess what? Every company's got people you got to pay. This is going to apply everywhere. And there's a lot of questions on this, and it's important to know. So let's dive through it. We've got account balance, transactions, and presentation and disclosure. For completeness related to payroll, we are going to search for unrecorded liabilities. Make sure that we don't have any pay that we need to pay out that is unrecorded. Make sure that any bonuses, any compensation is actually being paid out, making sure that there's nothing unrecorded. Valuation, allocation, and accuracy. Recalculate year-end accrual. Just do all these recalculations in terms of making sure that everyone's getting paid. We're going to dive more into that when it comes to the transactions. At year end, you may have, based on when the cutoff is, when paychecks get paid out, you may have a couple days that payroll is accrued for. And that's a liability in the balance sheet. Accrued payroll expense, where you have to pay them out. Maybe it's 12/31 is the year end, but you don't pay out until 5th of January. You're going to have a liability there until you pay it out. So making sure that that amount's correct. Existence and occurrence. Here you could vouch the client's calculations to recorded amounts. Rights and obligations. You want to examine documents to determine the company's obligations. Diving into transactions, we could trace time cards to the payroll register. So making sure that the employees, when they punch in, punch out, that the amounts on there tied to the payroll register, multiply that by the rate, hourly rate they get paid. For cutoff, you could examine the time cards before and after year end, making sure that specifically everything's in the right period. For valuation, allocation, and accuracy, we could compare payroll recorded with checks issued. We could foot the payroll, do all these checks, verify pay rates and deductions, recalculate gross and net pay, compare with the budgeted expected amounts. That would also help you to determine if there's any gross misunderstandings, and then recompute any sample checks. For existence and occurrence, we could vouch time on payroll summaries to time cards and approved time reports, and verify employee current employment status. That's a big one. Possible fake employees. Someone could create a fake employee and be collecting their paycheck. Also, just there's an error and we're accidentally paying. If anyone's seen Office Space, absolutely love that movie. And was it Milton was receiving a paycheck for years and they just didn't know that this guy was receiving paychecks. Shout out if anyone has not seen that movie, please go check it out. It is incredible, especially I'm sure a lot of you in the accounting world will definitely resonate with it. And then lastly, for understandability and classification, we want to examine checks for classification. For presentation and disclosure, as we've seen time and time again, read the footnotes, ensure that any required disclosures are presented. You're probably going to want to talk about particular types of compensation in the footnotes, compare to audit evidence to determine occurrence, inquire about accruals, making sure that everything is appropriately disclosed. If we owe any money, it's not excluded there. And lastly, read any required disclosures for understandability and classification. If we have to talk about executive compensation, stock bonuses, anything like that, this is where we would assess if it's properly presented. Talking more about auditing the payroll cycle, well, this is going to be an important part of ensuring that a company is operating efficiently and fairly. Efficiently meaning we're not wasting money, we're not giving money to those who shouldn't be receiving it and tying in with that, making sure that those who earn money, who deserve the money, are receiving it. This process, it's going to involve assessing the payroll process from start to finish to ensure that it's working correctly and that all employees are being paid accurately and on time. Now, this audit should assess the accuracy of the payroll records, compliance with applicable laws and regulations. We'll see, obviously, withholding, FICA, Medicare, Medicaid, all that. The timeliness of payments. It should also ensure that payroll deductions are correctly reported and that any bonuses or incentive payments are correctly calculated. Got all different ways to compensate people, so making sure we're accounting for that properly. Auditing should also include a review of the company's payroll policies, procedures to ensure that they are up to date and being followed correctly. Pretty straightforward, just giving ourselves a nice background on what we're thinking about as we're looking through all of these procedures. Additionally, the audit should assess the effectiveness of internal controls to ensure that payroll is secure and that unauthorized access is prevented. Obviously, payroll is a very sensitive area because easy way to receive money from a company is being paid by the company. It's not like you're stealing cash. The company exists to pay out employees, pay out holders, stockholders, owners. It's easier to manipulate this than to just steal cash. Now, in reality, I'm not trying to say what's easier, but if you think about it, it's easier to maybe create a fake employee and get that employee paid than it is to just maybe walk in and steal the cash. Now, finally, the audit should identify any areas where improvements needed and provide recommendations for addressing any issues found. That's going to be the case. Many things we'll see and we have seen throughout audit. Just make recommendations to the client to ensure that they are operating the best they can. We've talked about service organizations in other lessons, but here it's going to be important because, well, in those other lessons, we talked about a common service organization being used is for the payroll function. Now, service organizations provide companies with a cost effective and efficient way to process transactions. It's just outsourcing your payroll, right? And just as we're going through this, think ADP. That's really I'm sure most of you are familiar with ADP. Deal with payroll for a lot of companies. They offer a wide range of services such as payroll processing, other things, tax filing, direct deposit, reporting, but really payroll processing is what we're focusing on here. Companies that outsource their payroll services save money on payroll processing costs, as well as on the resources used to manage the payroll process. Examples: ADP, Paycor, Intuit. We got a couple others. Now, just like anything with outsourcing IT, we talk about this in other parts of exams throughout this process. And there's pros and cons to outsourcing, not to get into that here, but it's very common for companies to use an outside payroll system. These 30 parties organization also provide a level of security and accuracy that companies may not be able to provide on their own. They use secure databases to store employee information and are often compliant with current data security regulations and helps to ensure that information is safe and secure. Specialization is the way the world's going. Everyone becomes super specialized at one thing. So these companies become super specialized at maintaining, managing the regulations for payroll, all of.
Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.